You want to choose some sim racing equipment, but there are so many choices and it's confusing. Do you want to know how to do it? Well, this video is for you. I keep getting these questions. Should I go and choose X or should I go and choose Y? To be fair, I don't know. I don't know what you need. I don't know what you have. So at the very most, I can give you some pointers so you can make your own choice. Today's video, it will be about the thought process of choosing sim racing and hopefully getting something that you actually need. First of all, we need to get into a mindset. Sim racing is not an investment. Sim racing is a huge money sink. If you understand that, we need to start asking ourselves some questions. Number one, this one should be very serious. Do you really need to buy anything? It is serious because it is an expensive hobby, and an expensive hobby requires some hard self-reflection. I can give you some examples. Back in the Corona lockdowns, a lot of people were newcomers into sim racing and then they started to buy a very expensive equipment, only then to find out they didn't like it or didn't have that time anymore, and they sold a lot of equipment at a loss. Context of what you have is important. Do you really need anything? What is stopping you to race with what already you have? Number two, what is your objective in sim racing? And that's another important thing to ask, and I'm asking this because are you going to sim racing just to, have a little bit of a laugh with your friends once in a while? Or are you going to be super serial? If you're only going to play once in a while with your friends, can you really justify to yourself a huge purchase? Maybe you can if you are more serious and you want to get into competition, or you already are in competition. Number three, what do you really need? And I'm not asking what do you want. I'm asking you, what do you need? Do you need equipment to start? What you have is lacking something, some sort of power, some sort of features? And if you're pointing yourself towards a specific equipment, can you get away with less? Number four, this one is tricky. What is your budget? Because budget tends to be a little bit flexible. Can you get away with less, or are you willing to spend a little more to have something that is a little more future-proof and it is more feature-rich? Number five, this one is tricky because it shows you how sim racing is a sinkhole, a money sinkhole. With wheels and pedals, often you'll find that upgrading just one thing sometimes is not enough, and you'll oftentimes find that you also need to upgrade your rig or where you're going to play. All of these questions seem like you can be used somewhere else. Well, that's because they are. This is basically my mind script when I'm trying to justify a purchase or cancel a purchase or not buy at all. Do I really need this? Do I really need that? This mindset is not only important because it will make you not buy new things, but also when you need to make those purchases, it will ground you and give you a more realistic approach to a problem. Most importantly, it's so much better to have all of these things thought through when you're trying to justify these purchases to your spouse. And you say, oh, look, I have a plan here. I'm not just buying this out of the thin air just because I want it. I do have a plan. Sharing a plan to your spouse makes it more scientific. Just as important as getting into the mindset of, going for a purchase is how to make a choice and to choose the correct things. I see a lot of comments in my review videos. Sometimes I make recommendations over it and some people get annoyed because it's not the best thing out there. Well, sometimes being the best thing, it doesn't mean that is the best thing for people that might be choosing. For example, I'm a very practical person, so everything that is on my rig is meant to be sleek, easy to use, with as little cables as possible because I do hate cable spaghetti. So that means everything that I have on the rig, everything that is a choice on my rig doesn't need to be the biggest or the best. It just needs to fit my specific purpose. So all of this mindset that I'm trying to get you into is to see what is your situation at the moment. Do you have a small space? Do you have a big space? Do you have a lot of money? Are you on a budget? That means what is best for you might not be the best for the other person. So every choice is personal. After identifying what you need and what is your budget, it's time to start identifying choices. It is very important to identify the choices, not just one, try as many as possible. Don't stick just with one brand, identify all the brands in the market and then figure out what they carry, because sometimes it opens possibilities for your choices as well in the future. Identify the features of each brand, the advantages, the disadvantages, if they carry an ecosystem, what is their warranty, features that the brands are strong or weak with. Identify your compatibility and also their price. After identifying some choices, it's time to check out the reviews, but don't stick with just one review. Check everyone out. I'm saying this because every single reviewer will have their preferences, they'll have their biases, they'll have their points of views and way to approach a problem on the review. For example, I am a very practical person. I try to check out what is the value proposition of the equipment, who is the equipment for, what are the use cases. So in this case, a possible viewer, a possible buyer tries to figure out if this is for them or not. Other reviewers will be doing more deep dives. They'll figure out the technical specifications, power things, and if there's any sort of force feedback ripple or whatever. So they'll be more technical. But don't rely solely on reviewers. Identify buyers of the product and figure out the feedback that they have. If they had any problems, driver issues, reliability, if it failed them over a long period of time or a short period of time, how is the RMA process? How is the customer service? If you want to check out this kind of stuff, I think the subreddit Simracing is very good. But remember, you'll have to do this for every single piece of equipment. It's a lengthy process, but it's a process that will be hopefully getting into the right direction. You need to consider your budget. I'm not a big proponent of spending more in sim racing is the way to go, because oftentimes it really isn't. But sometimes it's good to think about, if I spend more, will I get more out of this as well? I can give you a couple of good examples. For example, wheel stands. A lot of them on the lower ends, they are very wobbly, even with lower end equipment. But if you spend just a little more, you can get wheel stands that are prepared to take direct drive and load cells. It's the same with wheels and pedals. Nowadays, if you spend just a little more, you are future proof, and you'll get bundles that are direct drive. They'll have multiple choices of wheels that you can buy from our ecosystem, and you'll have pedals that are possible to upgrade to load cells, for example, the Mods R5 bundle or the Fanatec CSLDD bundle. So if you have a smaller budget, try to figure out what is the bottom that you can go. Sometimes it's better just to go to the bottom of the budget and you get all that you want. But sometimes if you extend it just a little more, you have something that is more future-proof, and it goes into the idea of buying once to buy just once instead of buy cheap and buy twice. After you got a couple of choices, it's time to weigh its pros and cons against each other. You really need to start to think about ecosystem if you want to future-proof it. Some ecosystems like now Mota and Fanatec, they'll have a more complete ecosystem, so you can stay there for longer. You buy wheels or you buy pedals and everything will be compatible. You need to think about also compatibility with the consoles like Xbox or PlayStation. You also need to think about, maybe I'm going to get a better wheelbase, but that wheelbase will not be compatible with anything, and I'll need to find specific quick releases to make it work. For example, with SimuCube, really nice wheelbase, but it's not as flexible. So all of these things about weighing the pros and cons against each other will be important down the line. After all of this investigation and work, checking reviews, weighing the pros and the cons against each other, you'd be thinking, it's time to buy it.
Right? Wrong.
It's not time to buy it, it's actually time to sleep on it. Check a few days later if you still want the stuff, and I'm saying this because it's a very good way to stop impulse buying after seeing some cool things on the internet. Then after a week or so, do all of this investigation again, get a better understanding, and if you still continue to say, well, yeah, I'm gonna buy this, well, in that case, buy it. Buying sim racing equipment is really a rabbit hole, and I hope this guide has helped you. I would also like to thank all the channel members for making this channel a possibility, and if you want to help the channel out and be on the credits, why not become a channel member as well?